It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
On this Thanksgiving edition of the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast, I am joined by Dan Dembski in studio as we have a lot to talk about on this edition. It's Thanksgiving, folks, and you're in for an exciting episode. Stay tuned.
I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby, on Sports Podcast.
Alrighty, folks, welcoming you inside the Thanksgiving edition of the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast. You know who I am, and in studio is Dan Dembski as we're dapping it up. It's been a while, brother.
Dude, it's been too long, man.
I mean, not on the phone, but in person, face-to-face.
I think the last time I was on
Organic sports talk in person.
There's nothing better, man.
Yeah, it's nothing better. Face-to-face, you can argue with
I love it, man.
or whatever.
Point, counterpoint, yeah, that's right.
But before we begin, before we dive into this exciting episode, we're part of the Mayo Please Podcast Network. Make sure you check them out on Twitter and Podbean. They're on all streaming platforms as well. We're sponsored by Route 11 Chips. Make sure you find a bag today inside your local Martin's, Food Lion, and Giant stores. We're sponsored by PM Plus Reserves. And big thanks, as always, to Dave Johnson, JR Beats Official, and MPT Now Production. So, very exciting week on your end, Dan. Virginia Tech Hokies football shuts out Pitt. One more game to go. It's the UVA Cavaliers.
It's rivalry
the
week.
Battle for the Commonwealth Cup.
Yes,
but
sir.
that's not all. Virginia
the battle
Tech.
for the Coastal.
No. Their basketball team knocked off Michigan State. So
True.
Yeah, you must have seen it all. So tell us a little bit about that football game first off, and that basketball game second off.
Yeah, wow, what a couple of days it's been. The football game, my dad and I went, and we had a great time, man. It was miserable weather, it was cold, and it was pouring down rain, but Tech just played a complete game once again, especially on defense, shutting out. For 9 quarters in a row now, they've shut out their opponents. So they're getting hot at the right time, and I think UVA is scared right now to play us, which they should be. All the marbles seem to be falling into place right now for Virginia Tech football. Whereas a month ago it was kind of like the sky was falling. This is going to be the end of Tech football as we know it, and so many people had that sort of take. So it's good to see that we have recovered in just a short amount of time, and certainly that's very special. And of course, the basketball team picking up an improbable win in the Maui Invitational Tournament, quarterfinal round against Michigan State.
Then they get knocked out by Dayton.
They got crushed by Dayton yesterday.
Gosh.
Yeah, they lost.
Dayton in the A-10, really?
They lost by like 20 plus in that game. I think they lost by 28.
I didn't even see that game.
I didn't watch it.
I just thought it was a regular season game. I didn't really know they were actually in a tournament.
Yeah, it's the Maui Invitational. They send. It's one of the premier early season tournaments that they do in college basketball that every team wants to be a part of somehow. Tech had the honor of being invited to that, and like I said, I mean they just played extremely well. We're trading buckets with Michigan State for a long time, but Tech's defense really stepped up late when the game got close. Michigan State trailed by 3 with probably about a minute and a half to go, and you know how nervous I was, man. Oh my gosh, my heart was like pounding out of my chest.
Yeah.
But they did what they had to do, man. They stopped them on defense, and they did just enough to win. And It was an unbelievable win, and of course, they followed up the day after with a quite embarrassing loss. But they're a young team. They're going to have bumps on the road, bumps along the way, I should say. And that Dayton game was one of those bumps. But I think you can see how special this team could be, not just this year, but for years to come. So.
Under the direction of Mike Jones,
Mike
Young.
Mike Young. Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
He does have a basic last name. That is one thing about it.
Yeah, but
he's done a great job
taking over for Buzz Williams. Can you see the promise moving forward of a better Hokies team?
He just seems like more of a player coach, like just someone who really loves his players, and he seems to have a lot of fun with them. Buzz was kind of cold to that sort of thing, and I'm not going to trash talk him because he did a lot for the program.
Yeah, Buzz got really emotional getting through 2 suits throughout the game at halftime, changing, sweating through all his
and
clothes.
It used to be worse than that, man. He used to have to change every single game when he was bigger, before he lost a bunch of weight. But I think Mike Young's a fun coach, man. He's got these guys playing with a lot of heart right now, so we'll see if they can keep it going. Obviously, like I said, the Dayton game is a bump in the road, but they're an extremely young team. You're talking about a lot of freshmen and sophomores on that roster, so the future's bright, I think, in Blacksburg for basketball, and of course our women's basketball team is undefeated right now as well. So
heck yeah,
it's been fun to watch that too. So been a good couple of days for Tech Sports minus that game. Yesterday, so we'll look past that because we beat number 3 Michigan State. So
yeah, that's the upside. Michigan State. It's like
they're an unbelievable
is it
team.
March already? Look, the upset shouldn't be coming this early.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man.
Who knows? But as always, WUVT. You can find Dan on Twitter at Dan the VT Man 97. He's also on ESPN Blacksburg. You can listen to him on his SoundCloud. So moving right along with the show, Duke gets upset by Stephen F. Austin, another ACC team, but on the losing end against Stephen F. Austin.
Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith. But a lot of upsets early. Do you have sort of a prediction on how this season is going to go for the ACC and other conferences with all these upsets happening early?
Well, I think the good thing is that these upsets are happening early, and these teams have time to rebound and recover. We're only 6 games into the season right now. I still think the ACC is the strongest conference. Not as strong as it was last year or the year before, but I still think as far as dynamic talent's concerned, obviously Duke, North Carolina are those 2 teams that a lot of people are going to be chasing. But I think the ACC is really good from top to bottom, and you can't really say that with every conference. Now there's some teams at the bottom that obviously are not the greatest, but I mean it's got to be the toughest conference in college basketball, and I think it's been true for years. So I think the ACC will be fine. Obviously Kentucky lost earlier in the season too in the first game, I think against Evansville. So you talk about a lot of early upsets. These might be some of the craziest upsets at the beginning of the season that I've seen in my lifetime watching college basketball. So it's strange, but I think there's still time. And look, I mean, not only do you have a whole regular season left, of course, we all know Duke's going to be in the tournament. We all know they're going to be a high seed, and they'll probably make it to the Elite Eight at least. So that's just the kind of talent they have and depth they have every season. So I'm not worried about Duke. I'm not worried about the ACC. I think it'll be fine. But it certainly is surprising to see it this early on in the season and to see Duke fall at home, to a team. I'm not sure.
In overtime. Off a breakaway layup.
Breakaway layup. Time expired. That's gutsy, man. That's gutsy to drive it to the rim in that case.
If I'm correct, he stole the ball from a Duke player and just drove it down to the rim as time expired.
I think it was either an intercepted pass or like the ball was poked away. But yeah, and I think he made the layup with 0.3 seconds left. I mean, that's extremely gutsy to me because I think so many players in basketball want to pull that 3 with time running out. They want the big shot. So for that guy to drive in and make that layup with less than a second left is incredible. And, it just goes to show you that college sports is just unbelievable. You never know. You
In
never know.
football and basketball, you never know.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Backtracking now to college football, I know I have been slacking and not really been talking about it much, but we have the top 25 rankings for Week 14, and Alabama's number 5. Yes! It's a dream come true for me because every year you see Alabama in the top 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's great that they're down there. I hope they stay down there.
Yeah, the top 5 right now, Ohio State, who's looking red hot.
Red hot.
LSU, they beat Alabama. Clemson and Georgia.
So LSU's 2, right?
Yeah, LSU.
How is LSU not number 1?
Good question. That we could make a whole nother episode on the selection committee and how stupid they are.
That's baffling to me.
And it's only 4 teams in a playoff for a chance at a national championship when you look at UCF and their undefeated season. I'm backtracking. I don't know much about college football. I've honestly stopped watching it because of the selection committee, but I've been saying this before.
Yeah.
They need to expand the playoffs. Yeah. They need a better system.
I mean, even if you had 8 teams, you could get all Power 5 champions, conference champions in that, and then 3 at-large teams. That leaves a team like UCF, who was from a smaller conference but who was undefeated, and who complained and whined and cried that they weren't in it. And of course, this season they lost. Who'd they lose to? They had a really bad loss at home to somebody that was not very good. So we can finally tell them to shut up because they don't belong in the college football playoff, and they proved it.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech makes their mark with a 24 ranking after Week 14.
Yeah,
they're on pace for a really good bowl bid.
Yeah, and
consecutive bowl streak is still alive. Not bowl win, bowl streak.
Right. Well, because they lost
to Cincinnati.
They lost Cincinnati last year, which they were behind most of the game, fought back, but didn't have enough in the tank. So, and if they beat Clemson, they're really looking at a good bowl. They're looking at probably the Orange Bowl. But even if they lose to Clemson, I think you still have a shot at the Orange Bowl or a decently high bowl. So we'll see. But because I think the ACC winner automatically qualifies for the Orange Bowl. That's how that works. But obviously, if Clemson wins, they're going to be in the college football playoff, so it's not going to matter anyway.
Yeah. So big turn for Virginia Tech, nonetheless.
Yeah, and there's no other way they'd want this game to be set up on Friday. It's for the Coastal Division. It's against UVA, their most hated rival, a team which they've beaten 15 consecutive years. The stars are aligning right now for Virginia Tech. They just have to put the noise in the back of their minds right now and just focus on the task at hand. And that UVA offense has been pretty solid this year. They've had their fair share of bumps too. They've lost to some bad teams and they've had some really bad games. So is Virginia Tech, but not here in the last month, really. I mean, they really haven't played much bad football, which has been incredible. It's been an incredible turnaround, and Justin Fuente deserves a ton of credit. Also, they brought in that assistant coach, Jerry Kill. He's made a big difference, I think, with the scheming and the way the offense runs things, and he's had a lot of input too. So that's one of those things that is kind of overlooked and overshadowed, but that certainly has made a big difference. And, of course, Bud Foster's defense has just been unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Bud Foster.
Unbelievable.
They will miss Bud Foster next year. I guarantee it.
There's no doubt, man. He and Frank Beamer, I'm not going to say he's more important than Frank Beamer for the football program or for the Virginia Tech athletics in general, but he's definitely up there. He's probably near Frank Beamer's level, I'd say, as far as legend is concerned.
Yeah, Bud Foster is going to be joining Frank Beamer on the morning walks on the
campus.
Right.
Walking his dog Hank. So Frank's dog is named Hank. It's so funny, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that's sort of a college football look.
Did you want to talk about any other games?
Do you have any?
I mean, I watched quite a bit of the Penn State Ohio State, and I think
back and forth football game. That's all I heard. I was following that sort of. It tends to be Fox on Big Noon Saturday is very biased to Ohio State because Urban Meyer is on their broadcast team.
Oh yeah, he's annoying, man.
Yeah, it's like every week you see a promo for Ohio State, and like Big Noon Saturday is live from Ohio State, and like, weren't you just live there last week?
I feel like they go to Columbus like every 2 weeks or something like that. I mean, I know Ohio State's the best team in their conference, but come on.
But give it to another channel if you want. I mean, seriously, be like ESPN's College Game Day and go to a different school each week.
Go to an FCS school. That's what they did a couple weeks back. They went to North Dakota State. They've been to JMU.
North Dakota State.
Unbelievable.
That's another team in the FCS side, but we can't spend too much time on the FCS. But
no,
JMU,
I wasn't.
JMU is looking pretty decent as well.
They're in the top 10.
Probably going to get into the playoffs, but NDSU seems to come out of the FCS pretty much every single year.
They've won a lot of championships, man. And that's the playoff system. I think that's a little too big the way the FCS does it, because I'm not sure how many teams they have, but it's much more robust than the college football playoff. But that's another conversation you can have for another podcast.
Yeah.
You could talk about
I definitely agree.
how they could change it. But I think 8 teams is the way to go. Anyway, getting back to Penn State. Ohio State really dominated for the first half and for part of the third quarter. And then, Penn State made it a one-possession game, scored 17 unanswered 17 points in the third quarter. But Ohio State answered late in the third and then in the fourth again to put it away. So, Ohio State's just unbelievable, and they can score at will. They have a lot of talent. So, I still think Penn State's a really solid team. They're going to get a pretty good bowl at the end of this season, and we'll see how things shape up for them. I personally like Penn State. I don't really have a problem with them. So, and if I have to pick someone in the Big Ten, I'm definitely going to pick them. So, anyway. Yeah, that's really the game that I thought was interesting. The rest of the games were rather boring, let's be honest. I mean, they were either blowouts or Alabama played let me see.
Yeah,
played a cupcake team. Who'd they play?
Yeah, a cupcake team.
66-3 they won. I remember the score.
60, man. Without Tua, that's easy, a cupcake team.
And ESPN had Tua on there. It was like Tua Tagovailoa, 5 touchdown passes. I'm like, yeah, he's in a hospital bed, so he's not playing. But
yeah, Tua's probably not going to get that number 1 first round this year. I think he's staying behind after that injury.
He might stay at least through next year. He might play a little bit for Alabama, but I think he's already solidified himself as a top 10 pick as it is. But yeah, I just don't know how healthy he'll be even by April. It's just that's a terrible injury. It's tough to come back from, as we've heard 1,000 times, it ended Bo Jackson's career, and I think we mentioned that on this high quality sports podcast.
Yeah. But
so yeah, we'll see. That's an interesting situation, and of course I know we'll cover that. We have five months until the draft, so. That's going to come up a lot, I'm sure, down the line.
Yep. So that's enough of college football,
Agreed.
Dan, for a podcast. But just wanted to give you a small little update since we can't really provide you the best college football talk. But that's just some of our talk. So moving right along to this past week in NFL action, week number 12.
Hard to believe.
Yeah. Hard to believe,
flying by.
No doubt, but there weren't really that many good games. The good games I want to talk about. Starting Thursday night, the Texans and the Colts in a shootout.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. The Colts seemed to find a way to stay close in each game, in my opinion, and the Texans just had the upper hand. This was just a battle of 2 very good football teams, and the Texans came away with a win, and not really that many shattering stats, but
yeah,
just a really back and forth football game, and that's the kind of game you got to watch out for because it's one of the best to watch.
Yeah, and that division is so interesting especially with those two teams being so up and down. I think the difference for the Texans was how well Deshaun Watson played, even with the interception. He threw for almost 300 yards and 2 scores. So, he seems to thrive in those big game situations. When they need a win, he seems to be the kind of guy that can go out there and get it. Usually, not against the Ravens, but I'm not going to bash him for that. But Jacoby Brissett, I guess this was his second game back from injury. So he's probably just starting to come back, just starting to get back in the groove of things. He didn't have any touchdowns, didn't have any interceptions. So I mean, you can't expect him to come out there and light it up. So I think the Colts still have a quarterback for the future, though, and obviously the Texans do. But those two teams are going to slug it out, I think, for that division, and they're going to do it for the next few years because the Jaguars don't look very competitive. The Titans are so inconsistent, and I just think that leaves the door open for the Colts and Texans to just slug it out like they did on Thursday night, which was one of the closest and best games of the weekend for sure.
Yeah, so 20-17 Houston over Indianapolis in that Thursday night game. The Sunday 1 o'clock matchups, Tampa Bay defeats Atlanta, ends their 2-game winning streak, 35-22. Buffalo over Denver, 20-3. Chicago in the New York Giants. Wow, I thought the Giants would have played a little bit better.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Against the Bears, who have not been looking that good either.
What is it with Saquon Barkley this year, man? He's just been so trash.
Yeah,
compared to what he
59 yards
compared to what he was last year, and he has been. I think they're putting all the pressure on Daniel Jones to do everything on the offense, unlike when it was Saquon's offense. You could blame the offensive line, but he's supposed to be playing better than that. And the Bears aren't very good either compared to where they were last year when they were a playoff team. The double doink, of course, ended their season. They still cannot find a kicker, though. It's ridiculous, man.
I know.
So.
Pittsburgh over Cincinnati. This is one I wanted to talk about. Mason Rudolph gets benched. 85 yards and an interception, gets replaced with Devlin Hodges. It was a close game, but you may think the Bengals would probably take that momentum of their quarterback getting benched to probably win the game, but no. Devlin Hodges, 118 yards and a touchdown in that 16-10 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and that's a situation where you kind of go with the quarterback who could be the future of the franchise. I think they're still trying to figure that out. Obviously, it's not something you figure out overnight. But yeah, Devlin Hodges plays well, and the thing I noticed because I watched the highlights, he doesn't force the ball. He doesn't force the ball. If it's not there, he's either going to try to get out of the pocket and get rid of the ball, or just he's smart with the football, which is something that Mason Rudolph, obviously in the last 3 games that he started, he just he couldn't stop throwing interceptions. So there comes a point when Mike Tomlin realizes, look, our season is over basically. Why don't we go with this young kid who a lot of people don't know and see how he plays? And I know it's Cincinnati. They're now 0-11, but that's still a big win for a young quarterback. I don't think Devlin Hodges is a rookie, but he might be like a second-year player. I know he's fairly young. So, the crazy thing about it is Cincinnati has decent talent. I mean, they have Boyd. They have the tight end Boyd, of course. AJ Green, who I think's been hurt on and off this year. He's missed some time, but it's not like they have a bunch of nobodies. Like, there's no reason they should be 0-11, and it's just pathetic. It really is pathetic, and maybe they should bring Andy Dalton back. They benched him, but Ryan Finley's not playing much better right now.
Yeah, and going back to the Steelers, they might be trying to find that next quarterback just in case Ben Roethlisberger goes, because he is out for the season, and
I think they're preparing for the future without him. I mean, you have to. He's been in the league for 15
Yeah,
years.
he's getting pretty old.
He's had quite a few season-ending injuries, and especially this last one is really bad. I think you got to start looking towards the future. So
yeah, and that's about all for that game. 16-10 Pittsburgh over Cincinnati. How about the Redskins finally getting a win? But
hallelujah!
Oh my gosh! But
scored it all in the first half too. Probably kept you on the edge of your seat throughout the third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, Jeff Driscoll sucked. 3 interceptions that game against a terrible Redskins defense. I mean, this is the classic battle of the low balls or whatever, like battle of two terrible teams to make it close. The Lions should have won this game in all aspects. The Redskins did not look good at all. I mean, before this game, they had some decent stuff. Dwayne Haskins didn't throw a touchdown, 1 interception, but had 156 yards. He was very inaccurate throwing the ball.
That's not very good. Yeah,
he wasn't really good, but there was a glimmer of hope because he played a full game. Darius Geis.
Well,
was
he played almost a full game, minus about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But Darius Geis got in there. Adrian Peterson got in there. Dwayne Haskins had 28 rush yards. Terry McLaurin, he played decent. Kelvin Harmon, he played decent. Steven Sims muffed a kickoff return, took it to the house. That was crazy.
That is crazy, man.
But for the Lions to lose against the then 1-9 Washington Redskins, that just goes to show you how terrible the Lions are becoming.
They're really bad. And, without Matt Stafford, they're not going to beat anybody. He pretty much carries them when he plays. And they don't really have anybody around him right now, especially the Lions defense. I couldn't name 3 players in the Lions defense right now, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for the Redskins, obviously, it's a great moral win. They needed it. But yeah, the Lions are just about as bad as advertised, probably worse than a lot of people thought. I actually didn't get a chance to watch that game. Normally, I watch the Skins play, but I was out of town.
So going back to Dwayne Haskins and wow, Dwayne Haskins, he is young, he is a rookie, yes, but they could not find him after that last interception to take the kneel down. I was out and about and I saw, wait, why is Case Keenum coming in? Because I was following it on my phone, and they brought Case Keenum in because they couldn't find Dwayne Haskins. He was over in the stands taking selfies with fans, basically.
That's a terrible look.
I know it's terrible that you have a young quarterback and he's not going to finish the game. I know it was only the last play and you take a kneel down, but it's very unprofessional when a coach goes looking for you. And, you would never be able to do that at, the high school or college level, I would say. Like a football game before the last snap, all the players going over talking to the fan. I mean, it's sort of like that, but just one player, and that happened to be the young starting quarterback. In my opinion, it was a bad look altogether, but the Redskins are 2-9. It's not like they're going to the Super Bowl or anything like that. But still, he's got to be more professional about it. Finish the whole game, then do what he has to do.
Yeah, I agree. And he also didn't play well, so that kind of adds another level to it too. I know the Redskins won. They almost didn't, like you said. They should have lost. But he's kind of saying that he's okay with playing poorly, as long as the team wins. Which I guess, at the end of the day, it's all about, getting those team wins for most players. But yeah, that's the part that really gets me. Now, if he'd thrown for 5 touchdowns or 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and he would have had a little bit of a celebration before the game ended, I get that. But you don't do it when the offense has the ball, number one, and you don't you don't do it when there's still time on the clock. I mean, those are two obvious rules that 99% of football fans know and understand, and people who play football especially understand that. It's insane. But I know it's not the end of the world at the same time. So I think a lot of people who think that, it's somewhere in the middle, but it's certainly not a good look, especially for a team right now that's 2-9 and whose, GM keeps saying they have a damn good culture. They don't have a good culture at all.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened the week before with Dwayne Haskins yelling at his offensive line. And that's not a good culture. So, it starts from the top and works its way down. I've said this before on this show, and that's kind of a reflection of what the Redskins have become. Really, they've become okay with mediocrity, honestly.
Yeah, but Dwayne Haskins, he just has to learn.
He's young, and
I'm assuming he's
still a
going to
kid.
be the future
Yeah.
of the franchise for the time being. Quotation marks.
While they build around him, if they
Yeah.
or they try to build around him.
Yeah, but Redskins. How about them? But I'm not. I was expecting a loss. I was surprised they won, but it was a game they shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We have Cleveland beating Miami 41-24. Not a surprise in that one. A shootout. New Orleans beats Carolina. It looked like Carolina had a chance to upset New Orleans, and that would have been pretty interesting if that did happen.
Yeah.
Carolina still looking good. Kyle
Allen was sharp, dude.
Yeah, he's putting up great numbers for the Panthers. And Drew Brees, over 300 yards with only an interception and 3 touchdowns. So it was a shootout on both sides of the football, but New Orleans took the win 34-31 in that one.
Yeah, that was a fun game. I was trying to pay attention to that one as much as I could. DJ Moore was fantastic. 6 catches, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. He and Kyle Allen seem to have quite the connection right now, and we'll see if that if they continue to build on that. And Drew Brees threw a pick. Oh my God! Seriously? No, I'm just kidding. He's human after all. But the Saints just are loaded with talent from top to bottom on both sides of the ball. And honestly, the Panthers should have won that football game. They make one more play. Obviously, you lose by 3. You make one more play, and you pretty much have the win. So that's kind of a victory too for the Panthers, especially the way they played the last couple weeks, especially last week after getting blown out at home. Going on the road and playing the Saints that way is really special. And I think Kyle Allen is continuing to show that he can be the quarterback of the future. He's not always going to play lights out. Obviously he's had some growing pains, but that's going to happen with a young quarterback, like it does with Dwayne Haskins and every other quarterback. So I think the Panthers, I just think they need help on defense more than anything, and I hope they do that in the draft. So, but the Saints, I mean, they're the number 2 seed right now, and they're probably going to stay there unless something drastic changes in the NFC side of the playoff picture. So, nothing more needs to be said about them because they're the Saints. I mean, they're there every season. So, and Drew Brees is Drew Brees. He's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. So, moving on, the New York Jets rout the Oakland Raiders, and Derek Carr gets pulled in place of Mike Glennon. What was it called for in that situation?
Yeah, he was playing poor, man. But that's Gruden's guy, man.
Yeah.
That Derek Carr kid's a grinder. He loved Derek Carr, man. How's my John Gruden impression? I've been working on it.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, yeah, their season is pretty much trashed now.
But what does this mean moving forward? Are they just going with Mike Glennon, or is it a week-by-week thing?
This is John Gruden. You just don't know what he's going to do. You just don't know. Derek Carr's been the guy for them for so long. I would be surprised if one bad performance puts him puts him in the doghouse. Because every quarterback has a bad game now and then. But sometimes quarterbacks or players that are playing poorly need to be benched just to light a spark under them, to get them started again. So, obviously, going forward, we'll find out if Derek Carr has that spark and has that motivation to play better. And, yeah. How about Josh Jacobs, man? 10 rushes, 34 yards. I mean, they put all the pressure on Derek Carr, whoever the quarterback is. Obviously, it was Mike Glennon. But, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, you can't run for 34 yards and expect to win. I don't care if you have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So
I've beat it like a dead horse. You have to have a running game. You can't be one.
You have to pound the rock.
League.
Exactly. And as much as the NFL's become a passing league, and it certainly has, I mean, the best teams can still run the football. That's just how it's been.
Yeah, so moving on to another shocker. Seattle beats Philadelphia 17-9. Philadelphia did not look like the Philadelphia Eagles at all. Carson Wentz, 256 yards with 2 interceptions. Russell Wilson, 200 yards with a touchdown and an interception in that game. Rashad Penny, over 100 yards rushing in that game, but Seattle, their top rusher was Miles Sanders. I think it comes down to, in this situation, the Eagles' run game, because they've had some injuries. Darren Sproles, he's likely on IR out for the season, but the Eagles are one game under 500. Is it time to push the panic button for Philly?
I'd say yeah, and I'd venture to say that the offense has really played poorly most of the season, especially these last 3 games. You go back to the game against the Patriots, and it was pretty practically the same exact thing happened on Sunday against Seattle. Carson Wentz just couldn't take advantage of any opportunities, and then you put all the pressure on your defense, and you can't expect to stop Russell Wilson all the time. He's going to make some plays on you, and honestly, he didn't even play that well either. So, I think the Eagles' concern is their offense, and has been for some time. And it's not just Carson Wentz, of course, but he's getting paid a lot of money, and he hasn't proven anything. He hasn't proven anything to anybody. So that's a huge concern going forward. Also, Miles Sanders, who's on my fantasy team, has just been so inconsistent, and hasn't been able to get going. So they have talent, obviously, with Ertz. Ertz is the go-to guy for them, receiving wise. It's just Wentz just has to. I don't know what he has to do. Maybe he needs to get benched. Maybe that's what it's going to take. The Eagles' season obviously is in the can, just like a lot of these other teams we talked about for making the playoffs. They're 5-6 right now. I guess it's not technically in the can. They could win out, but let's be honest. The way they're playing, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I've said this almost every week. It's going to be a race in the division between the Cowboys and the Eagles.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's all I have to say about that. And moving on, New England and Dallas. Dallas drops to 6-5, and
they lose when they play good teams.
Yeah, and there were some questionable officiating calls.
Yeah.
Not sure if you want to weigh in on that, but I didn't really see a trip. And
I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. There was 2 of them called. There were 3 of them in the game, 2 against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a...
And there's been 4 called all season, just for reference.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a game decision penalty. Like,
it certainly played a big role.
Yeah.
It certainly played a big role.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a sloppy, wet game. Kickers were missing kicks. It was the typical rainy day where you're trying to cover the football, not make mistakes. And if we can look in the stats, I mean, it was mostly run games. Run game all around in the rain.
You have to pound the rock in the weather like that.
You can't really throw. Dak Prescott was wearing a glove trying to get a grip on the football. It's hard to get a grip on the football.
On a wet football, especially.
Yeah, in the rain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, next game, Tennessee and Jacksonville. Yeah, I mean, this was a given. 42-20. I knew Tennessee would win, but a shocker. Sunday night, San Francisco beats Green Bay, improves to 10-1 on the season, 37-8. 37-8. I was very surprised about the score. I thought this would be more of an evenly matched game. Aaron Rodgers gets held to 104 yards passing.
Yeah, the Packers offense
goodness.
They just never got going. Rodgers never got going. Drive after drive. I think I expected to see the Aaron Rodgers of all season show up. You know what I mean? It just never happened for him, and the 49ers are just a darn good football team right now. Not just right now. They've been great all season, and of course the matchup we have against them this Sunday is going to be our hardest matchup as well.
That's going to be one to watch for sure.
Yeah, that's a possible Super Bowl preview too. So
you never know.
You never know.
So
Garoppolo played extremely well again. 253 yards, 2 touchdowns. Packers defense is about the same as they've been in the past few years. They're not dominant. They're an average defense, but they just couldn't slow down the 49ers attack. Not only Garoppolo, but George Kittle's 6 receptions, $129 and a touchdown was fantastic. And like I said, the Packers just never got going. And by the time they scored a touchdown, it was in the third quarter, and they were already getting trounced by that point. So it was 30-8. It was 30-8 at that point before the 49ers made that final score. So,
Packers were getting shut out at halftime. The offense wasn't moving.
It was
but
23-0 at halftime.
I was still very surprised, though, because it is the Green Bay Packers.
I was shocked it was 23-0 at halftime.
That just goes to show you San Francisco's the real deal.
They are. They're a Super Bowl. They're a Super Bowl contender. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So our Monday night game, I guess I'm just gonna let you talk about this. This was a rout of the Los Angeles Rams. The Baltimore Ravens put up 45 compared to the Rams 6. What do you have to say about that one?
Lamar Jackson can throw the football. I'm so sick of week after week people saying he's not a great quarterback. He can't throw the football. He's not a pocket passer. Shut up. Okay,
stats don't lie.
Numbers
5
don't lie.
touchdowns.
15-20, 169 yards. And by the way, that was 45 fantasy points on CBS, which I don't play CBS, but that's a lot of fantasy points for one player. In comparison, Jared Goff had 4 fantasy points for CBS.
And Hollywood Brown had a pretty good game as well.
Unbelievable, yeah. 5 catches, 42 yards, of course, the 2 touchdowns. He's been fantastic all season. But the Ravens just have a ton of weapons for Lamar to throw to, and this is something that they have not had for years. I can't remember a time where they've had this many weapons on the field at one time. Of course, having Mark Ingram has really helped too. That was a huge signing for them. I'm glad they were able to get him. Of course, he finished with over 100 yards and a touchdown as well. But the Ravens Josh, I didn't see a 45-6 game coming. I thought the game would be a lot closer, and it seems like every week they play better than the week before. They blow out a team more than the week before. And to say they're hot right now is an understatement. I think they're the hottest team in football, and nobody wants to play them, maybe except the 49ers.
It's gonna be a challenge against San Francisco, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Of course, they had a very similar win to ours, where they just blew out the Packers. The difference was we were on the road, which that's why I thought it was going to be tougher for us. But Lamar can throw the football, and I'm so sick of people saying that he can't. That's my overall thing with this. He only threw it 20 times, but you don't have to throw it 50 times, especially when you have a great running back like Mark Ingram. There's no reason that you have to throw it that many times with a guy like Lamar. So I'm excited. They're 9-2. I've never seen an offense that they've had that's been this talented before, and I'm just amazed every week. And I think that's how I would describe my my overall sentiment from this game and just all season.
Yeah, so that about wraps up our Week 12 recap. Very exciting week, but yet again, some pretty bad games on. 4 teams with a bye week, the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Minnesota Vikings, which really hit me hard because the Minnesota Vikings, I have Kirk Cousins, who is an asset in my fantasy football league. But nonetheless, Week 12 has been wrapped up. I said this earlier, Jason Kamlowski is off, so Fantasy Football Files will not be happening, but still we are taking a quick break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast.
The Josh Kirby on Sports podcast, part of the Mayo Please podcast network, is sponsored by Route 11 Chips. Make sure you grab a bag today inside your local Martin's, Food Lion, and Giant stores. And our new sponsor and fellow sports fans at PM Plus Reserves, providing reserve studies for homeowner and condominium associations in the Washington metropolitan area for the past 30 years. Make sure you check us out on all streaming platforms via the Mayo Please and the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast. You can also find the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, along with the Mayo Please on Twitter. Have any questions for the show? Feel free to shoot us an email at kirbyonsports@gmail.com.
All right, we are back on Dan Dembski. I'm Josh Kirby, and we have another exciting segment for you. It's Thanksgiving time, probably the second most wonderful time of the year, behind Christmas season, but still pretty great time getting into the holidays. You got family, friends, food, and football. Are you excited for Thanksgiving?
Dude, I'm so excited.
Dude, the turkey and mashed potatoes. I mean, you can't beat mashed potatoes, gravy, and turkey and watching football.
Dude.
Don't forget about pumpkin pie and everything
Oh,
else.
pumpkin pie, yes. One of my favorites.
Everything about Thanksgiving is great, and we have 3 wonderful Thursday games.
We have 3 helpings, 3 sides,
Yeah.
and also 3 desserts.
Yeah.
That was lame. I'm sorry.
No, you got the dinner, the dessert, and the football.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, it does not. Sit down with your family, eat some turkey, the pumpkin pie, the chocolate, the whatever you have. It's just a whole spread. Any specific traditions you all have for Thanksgiving, Dan?
Nothing that's like specific to my family. I think a lot of families do the same thing, we usually have the game on like in the background, or the games whoever's playing. Obviously Dallas usually plays. Detroit usually plays on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Detroit, Chicago, Dallas, Buffalo, and New Orleans and Atlanta.
Dallas and Buffalo that's a good matchup. Interesting to see how Dallas will fare. Anyway, we usually have it on in the background during dinner, and then we all sort of sit around and watch football. Those who are interested, obviously not everyone in my family is a huge football fan like I am.
Do you stay local or go out?
Yeah, my sister's hosting, and she lives here in Steven City, so my family generally just comes from around this area, so they don't have to travel too far.
Well, that's fine. That's fine, Nothing wrong with that, I travel down to my grandmother's house, usually go to family member's house, but Thanksgiving, it's that time of the year. I mean, like right after Thanksgiving is like Christmas is
it's
right
insane.
around the corner.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's pretty much like it gets here quick. I mean, Thanksgiving's gotten here already
It's
pretty
like
quick.
right after Thanksgiving ends, you're on to Christmas music, Black Friday.
Black Fridays,
all the
really where it
deals.
begins, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, sir.
So, holiday season kicking in, but the Thanksgiving slate of games, 12:30 p.m. on Fox, the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, a rivalry. Who knows if it's going to be good or not with 2 very bad teams. It might be a close game because it's in the division. But that one at 12:30, then 2 of the best games on the slate, 4:30, Buffalo and Dallas. That's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
They're going to keep it close. I fully expect a great football game out of this one, plus a division matchup at 8:20. New Orleans and Atlanta.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, so have some turkey, watch some football, enjoy Thursday, and then when we have the next set of Sunday games would be in December. December 1st.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. It's nuts. We're almost in December. It's almost 2020, folks. But anyways, we have the 1 o'clock slates on Sunday, New York and Cincinnati. That's the Jets. Tennessee and Indianapolis, San Francisco and Baltimore at 1 o'clock on Fox. That's one to really look out for. If you do not get that game, find a way to get Sunday ticket and watch it. Tampa Bay and Jacksonville, Philadelphia and Miami, Green Bay and the New York Giants, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, Washington and Carolina, Los Angeles Rams at the Arizona Cardinals, Oakland and Kansas City, the Chargers and the Broncos, the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans, and Monday night, Minnesota and Seattle. So, any ones you're looking out for on Sunday or Monday as a close game?
Well, outside of my team playing, obviously I've talked about that before. Obviously Bills Cowboy. Well, that's not Sunday. Sorry,
Yeah, that was Thanksgiving. We were just talking about.
I thought you were
that.
talking about the
Technical foul.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the whole.
No,
week in general.
just for Sunday, since we discussed Thursday already.
Browns and Steelers. I think most people are going to be interested in that game, with all the violence you could call it that took place the last time these two teams played.
And that seemed like just 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago.
That's
They played 2 weeks apart.
a short turnaround.
Yeah.
That,
so that's gonna
that
be
might be very interesting because Myles Garrett is out, but still, who's going to get hot and if there's going to be a fight or something,
Well, and you have to wonder if the reason they went to Devlin Hodges was because of that.
I don't know.
It's a debatable thing. Anyway, I'm interested to see that game, just to see how much those two teams still hate each other, and see if any of the bad blood has spilled over. Supposedly, they were supposed to send letters to both teams, the commissioner, and say, look, and send it to the owners of the teams and say, you got to keep these teams in line because they don't want a big fight to break out for obvious reasons. And Titans Colts is interesting to me. Both teams 6-5, both trying to get into the playoff hunt right now. That's a big game for both those teams. Whoever wins that game has got a pretty good advantage, and really can still win the division either way. So that's an interesting game to me. And then also one that may be a little unconventional but is interesting as far as the Sunday games. The Raiders travel to Kansas City, travel to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. That's an interesting game. Derek Carr, obviously he's not played well the last few weeks, hence his benching. And, Patrick Mahomes, we haven't heard much from him recently since he's come back from injury. So we'll see if they can win. I think the Raiders have a shot, honestly, to win that game. They almost won. I feel like the first time they played, I have to look real fast. Let me type that in. The first time they played, I feel like it was close.
Yeah, but with Patrick Mahomes, you haven't really seen much. The Chiefs are 7-4 now. Could this be a potential upset? I couldn't really see it happening since the Raiders just benched Derek Carr and all that drama, but still, could it happen?
The NFL's weird though, and this is the kind of script that sets itself up. I mean, the Chiefs are going to lose some bad games. We know that, and Patrick Mahomes has had some bad losses, but if they do lose, it's going to be like some freak play at the end of the game where the Raiders score and take a 2-point lead to win the game or a 3-point lead to win the game. It's not going to be like a blowout. So that's probably the last Sunday game that I'm interested in. Outside of Pats and Texans, which we'll see what the Texans are made of, and we'll see what the Pats are made of. That's the bottom line. And that's another big playoff implication game, and another seeding, especially implication game. So,
yeah.
Other than that, man, most of the other games are pretty lame. So, am I still going to tune in?
Good games.
Am I still going to tune in? Absolutely. I love football. And we'll get a chance to see some good football starting on the big Turkey Day tomorrow and continuing throughout the weekend. So I'm excited.
I cannot wait either. So that's a Week 13 preview starting on Thanksgiving Day. If you're listening to this recording, we are recording Wednesday the 27th, so it would be tomorrow. But wherever you are, I hope you and your families have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. It's always a pleasure having you on, Dan, as well.
We're very thankful for the fans, for the people who listen to us and give us great comments. Josh, I've heard a lot of people tell me, and I don't know if I've told you this. Yeah, I've heard your buddy's podcast. It's really good. So just keep doing what you're doing, man. It's going really well, and we're thankful for all the listeners, all the people who tune in and pay attention on social media. It really means a lot to us.
Yeah. One thing I'm really thankful for is this podcast and how much it has helped me, because I love sports, and I used to be a blogger, and I was like, I just want to start a podcast. It was all confusing at first and whatnot, and I was like, I can't do this. And then I just jumped in and said, hey, I'm going to do this. And
motivation.
I started, and it's got me this far. What is this, 63, 64 episodes? I can't even keep track, but we're in the 60s now. It's crazy, but I'm thankful for everybody who has taken the time out to call in to interview with, you know who you are, all the guests on the show, and all the success I've had. I couldn't have done it alone. You as well, Dan, but I'm not going to go on with this sappy cry show. I'm not one of those people, but still, wherever you are.
It's important, though, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important to be thankful on this Thanksgiving, and I hope wherever you may be, I hope you and your family have a great, very safe Thanksgiving. And any last words for the show, Dan?
Go Hokies.
Go Hokies.
Yep.
You're wearing an Orioles shirt, man.
This is all I had, man.
Oh,
come on.
Where's your tech shirt?
They're all dirty, man. I've worn them all. I've had a lot of opportunities to wear them recently. So
yeah, I feel it.
Yeah,
so,
that's how it's been.
Yep, that is our Thanksgiving edition of the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast. Make sure you tune in. For next episode, we will have more content to bring you, NFL and whatever else crosses our minds. But until then, we're part of the Mayo Please Podcast Network, sponsored by Route 11 Chips. Make sure you find a bag today inside your local Martin's Food Lion and Giant stores. We're also sponsored by PM Plus Reserves. Thanks, as always, to JR Beats official Dave Johnson and MPT Now Productions for everything. You can catch us via the Mayo Please Podcast Network or the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast on all streaming platforms. For Dan Dembski, I'm Josh Kirby, and we'll catch you on the next episode. So long and peace out.